Hey guys, Eric here, and I'm going to demonstrate what I'm working since early of this year, 2020, and it is FIWL, Flexible Interactive Web Layout, which is a layouting system for making front-end web application. Currently, we are using HTML and CSS for almost anything. The coolest thing, progressive web application, which is mostly run under mobile environment, also on desktop, like what Spotify did. Well, let's be honest, it's not actually a good fit for making web app with HTML. The reason behind this is because when we are creating an app with HTML, we need to require a lot of things that shown on this diagram. And these entire files that we are working with can't be directly run into the browser. So we need to compile that with a bundler, which can be either Webpack or Browserify. The reason why I made FIWL, because it's not really straightforward to make app with HTML. FIWL is run directly on the browser. Speaking of straightforwardness, let's say we are going to make a login screen, a simple one with a background behind all this, and a title, a couple of text fields, and a button. With HTML, we have to write this long text with HTML formatted. And actually, we are using Bootstrap for the styling, so we don't have to write very long CSS thing here. And beside of that, when we are working on FIWL, we just tell the browser where the widget is located. In this case, this picture is located right behind of everything here, whereas there is a card-like layout, which is a form layout in the front of the picture here. Okay, now we are going to directly working on FIWL, and you can actually try this in your own PC. The first thing you need to do if you want to run your own FIWL-based application, first we need to prepare our best environment. If you're using Mac OS or Linux, like let's say Ubuntu or maybe Arch Linux or anything that relates to Linux, like anything, you can actually skip to the next tab, which is cloned via Git. But if you're using Windows like what I did, you have to install what it called WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux. And I already provide the official way to install WSL here on the documentation here. So if we have already prepared our base environment, it will be shown like this, a blank screen with a text thing. Okay, if you have this on your PC right now, then we can continue to the next step. Here, clone a quick start repository. All you need to do is just copy and paste from the documentation. I provide the link below here on the description. Okay, there's one tip for you, and you can actually name your own application here. All you need to do is just type space here and type your project name. Let's say my app project. If you notice here, we are using dash instead of space like this, because in bash environment, if we want to use space, we have to add double quote here, which can be a problem if you forgot that. So instead using space and double quote, we just simply use dash here, which most people call it the bad case. Yes. Well, let's just hit enter here, and it will download everything what we need right there automatically. Okay, we have the file ready, and the next we need an IDE. IDE is actually an integrated development environment, so it's like a text editor, but special for making programs. So it's for editing source code. You can use either Visual Code, Sublime, or Notepad++, anything you like. But this time I'm going to use Visual Code because it's the easiest in my opinion. Okay, if you're using Visual Code like what I did, all you need to do is just type code, your project name, my app project here, and hit enter. Then it will open the IDE with your project inside of it. So, okay, here we are. We have the main file here, main.FIWL. Here, you will get here. This actually the first thing you want to working with, because this is the main entry of your application. And yes, there is an index.html here, but it's actually like a bootloader which will tell the browser to where to go the next, like run this script FIWL.js for preparing the FIWL environment. Then it will read your main entry of your application here, main.FIWL. Okay, most of you will not see this color text here. Instead, you will see plain text here, like here, white plain text. So in order to do that, all you need to do is just find what it called plain text. In Visual Code, it's located on the right bottom corner here. Click there and type XML, or just XML, anything XML. Okay, fun fact, FIWL actually extends XML, but it has a little difference here between XML and FIWL. Okay, now we have our first quick start application here. This is a template. It's actually an example stage. Well, what is stage? Stage is actually same as page in HTML. So stage is a whole screen of your app that can be switched to the next stage, much like page in HTML. Okay, now we need to run this. And how to run that? Okay, I already add the instruction here on the documentation. So it located how to use section. At the very bottom you will see this running the app, and all you need to do is just make sure you're currently on the working directory. Well, if you are using Visual Code now, you can just hit Ctrl and title character at the same time, and you will see terminal below. And if you're working on Sublime, you can actually do this similarly, but I have no idea what hotkey you're using in Sublime. But in Visual Code, it's Ctrl and title character. Okay, we have terminal here at the bottom. Now let's run the web server. Okay, what is web server? Well, actually, in order to run your web application, we need to simulate the web server. It can be using like Apache, or anything similar, but in this case we are going to use HTTP server instead, because it's the easiest approach to do, especially for beginners. Okay, to do that, first we need to install HTTP server via npm. Okay, the first time, if you are using Ubuntu, you can just directly copy paste here, but if you are using Mac OS, you just change everything but called fpt to brew. It's just the same thing. Okay, I'm currently using Ubuntu now. I just type apt here and hit enter. Okay, let's put the password here and enter. It will update everything before we are installing any program that we will need. So it will make sure we are on the up-to-date version of the program. Okay, cool. Now let's install the npm first before HTTP server, because HTTP server is actually a JavaScript module, so it cannot be run alone. We need Node.js, which can be managed by npm, and npm is actually a package manager to manage the JavaScript module, which is something we are need to do, so you don't have to think about how to make sure this thing work when you're updating something. This is very useful for your development. Okay, let's install the npm. Just remember, if you're using Mac OS, change every apt to brew. Okay, I'm already installed npm here, and it's written like npm is already the newest version, but if you have not installed npm before, it will be written as like, I don't know, so many there. But if you find out there's an error, that means you have bad internet connection. So to fix that, you need to find another good internet connection. Okay, now we have installed the npm. Now let's install the HTTP server here. So, server, okay. Enter. Okay, it's now currently downloading HTTP server, and well, it's pretty fast, and it actually takes some time if you do this initially, but when you do this multiple times, just go faster and faster. Okay, now we have HTTP server installed. Let's run that HTTP server. How? Just copy this, run this command. Okay, copy this and paste here with right click. And one more tip for you guys: if you want to open up your browser right after the HTTP server start, you can actually add this O here, which means open the browser, open the default browser after the HTTP server is running. Okay, let's hit enter and see what's happened. Okay, it's running now. Cool. Now we have an example here, an example of app that using FIWL. Okay. Now let's resize this too small because we are not going to see anything below here, and we are going to focus on here on this section. Now this is a FIWL file. This is your main working project, and this very beginning is a root tag, which tells what the FIWL file actually is. And currently we are making stage for this. As I said before, stage is equals as page in HTML. Okay, let's say we are going to change this label here, this label into hello world. And see what's happened. Okay, let's save that, refresh. You might wondering why this is not changing, because your browser is actually caching, which means saves the old files of your application, which is a good thing for production, but it's a bad idea for development. So in order to prevent that, we just type Ctrl Shift and G here together to open up the console. But if you're using another browser instead of Edge, instead of Microsoft Edge, you can find anything that looks like this development console or development tools or anything similar, then just console here. Then you just press and hold this and click empty cache hard refresh. Now it's changing now, as we expected. Cool. Now let's make something simple, like let's say a counter that can be added and subtracted. Now to do that, we just remove this entire thing, and we can actually modify this to be anything like, let's say, a counter, my counter. Cool. And let's we create the root layout here, and our root layout is a primitive layout. We can actually create another type of layout here, like series layout, but because we want to make the, let's say we put anything inside the card like, and it's right on the center, we need to make it make the root layout as a primitive layout, like this. This is primitive layout, which is just simply put anything inside of this, depending on the line. Okay, we have an empty root layout here and the root tag here, and we save. When we refresh, it's all empty. It's a blank, nothing here because it's empty. Okay, let's say we were going to the card-like effects, like series layout. Well, there's a difference between layout and series layout. They both have some characteristics, except for series layout, we actually ask the widget to place in order. Like if we add, let's say, orientation as horizontal, then it will be arranged from left to right. But if we put that vertical like this, it will be arranged from top to bottom. Okay, cool, but in this case we will go using horizontal instead. Okay, let's save this and see what's happened. Okay, it's blank now because this is also empty and it shows nothing here. But if we add a padding, yes, the padding here are same with HTML and Android development if you're familiar with. But the difference is we are at the very end, like paddings here. Don't forget to add S here, which means explain that every padding, either left, right, or anything else, must be equally this. This is equal to 16, so our padding will be 16. Cool. Well, let's save it and refresh. Now we see here a box here at the left top corner, but we want this corner. We want this box right on the center. How we did that? Well, simple. Just add alignment here. Align. Center. Then after we save and refresh, it will be located right on the center. Cool. Now let's add something inside of it. Let's say a label here. Label. Hello there. Okay, save. Now you might wondering why this is not looks like card, just looks like an ugly box here. That's because we are not telling the widget what it's supposed to be like. To make it looks like card, first we need to make that layout is elevating. And what is elevating? Well, if you learning material design before, you know the concept of elevation. So let's say we add elevation here equals 16 and save it. And there's a shadow like effects because it's actually elevating in z-axis and back to front side. Okay, now we're going to make it more like rounded. To do that, just add corner radius equals, let's say, another 16, and here we go. It's now looks like a good card, a really nice card. Now let's put this tag or anything else inside of it right on the center. It's also alignment, but it's for the context. To do that, same as like before, but except it's align, contents, don't forget the S, center. Let's see what's happened now. It's all centered here. Cool. Okay, there's one problem here. if we change the display as a mobile here, we move like this, it just looks too small for mobile. We want this looks equal on either desktop or mobile. So to do that, all we need to do is just add unit here. Everything is dp. dp means pixel that don't follow density, aka density independent pixel, dp. If you're developing in Android, then you're home now, because it's actually following a concept of Android. We save here, refresh, okay, and change this to mobile. It's now looks the same. Pretty cool. Now let's another thing inside this card thing. Let's say we will add some button here. The left side, which is minus button, minus, and plus. Save. Okay, there's a button here, and it looks exactly like a button, material design button, but it just too close each other. This is something that we don't want. So to make it separate in HTML like this, we're actually using margin, and we can do the same thing with fill like this, right? Equals, let's say, under 60 dp, and hit refresh, and see, it's now not close each other. Great. But instead of repeating margin right for each widget, it's actually not really efficient. Imagine if you have so many things inside seriously, or it's really overwhelming. So instead of using margin right for its content, its widgets here, we are going to use spacing like this. Okay, same. That's it. 60. And here we are. It's the same thing, but we did not repeating something for multiple times. It's pretty good. Now let's make this text a little bit bigger. So we can actually set the text size like this. Text size equals, let's say, 24 sp. Need to know that sp is like dp but for text. So if the browser want bigger text but same size for everything else, so the browser will scale the sp part, not the dp. Okay, let's save and refresh. Let's see what's happened. Or maybe a little bit bigger again. 24 is a default value here. 2, and now it looks bigger. But yes, we are repeating again here text size for anything here. We don't want that. We want this 32 as default behavior. So to do that, we go to the style of file here. This file is actually control a default behavior of every widget. So here we have control text size, which is actually text size for anything that user can touch, like button. So if we change this to, let's say, 32 sp like we did before, then yeah, same thing, but we don't repeat it here. Okay, the cooler things here in the styling, we can actually set the default coloring here, like primary and secondary. And if you have ever learned material design before, we have actually what called primary color, secondary color, and typically primary color is like a color that usually you will use for almost anything, and secondary is special for something that user can interact with, like buttons. So let's say we change every button color by, say, 00FF, which represents cyan. Let's save it and refresh, and see it's now changing color, but this text is really ugly here. It's just white. We expecting black here. So to change that, we have something like called on secondary, which is color on secondary color, and in this case we have white color case, which is FFFFFF. Let's change it to black at 00000. Here, refresh, and we have a zero. We have a black text here. Cool. Now let's make this counter functional, because this is actually not a counter. It's just we testing things. And anyway, let's change the padding a little bit bigger so it looks better. Okay, great. Now let's we change this hello there to 0. So we will have 0 here, and the button still not working because we didn't put any logic here. So to put the logic, we can actually use script like on HTML here. But there's a problem. When we are using script here, we actually run the JavaScript when this file is just being parsed. This is something that we don't want. So instead of this being parsed, you want to run the script here when everything is ready, when state is ready. So we will use even instead. Even is same as script, but instead it will run on specified condition like on ready here. So when we check the stage like console is actually for checking available object or anything we like. In this case, we will read what actually this contains. We refresh and see this is the stage. So this object here actually referencing to our stage. So if we compare here app stage, it's the same thing, true. And you might wondering why we are using app here, because every field is happening inside this app, which is app is actually a global variable that has field environment inside of it. So if you're working with field, we want to use app, then everything is inside like the stage. Now let's say we add something like a counter variable, which is like our counter. This is the number, and the reason why we create a variable with number type, because we can actually add or subtract this label text, because it's string, and string can be only concatenated. So let's attach this label to the script, but before we do that, let's add ID here and call my label. So my label, you can name it everything like you want, but in this case we will use label, my label. So okay, let's type const my label equals this, fine. Sorry, this layout. This layout represent this root layout here, and in this root layout we will find what called find content. Sorry, it's supposed to be capital. Okay, let's say my label. Cool. And we want to know what's inside my label. So log my label. and it shows null. Why? Because when we actually didn't add something like true, this true represent to deep source, if we don't use that, it will actually just source on the first level, so it won't source to the deeper one here. So to do that, we just add true here, and keep in mind that this is actually heavy operation, especially if you are using if you are creating a big application. This is actually heavy operation, so don't ever do this in the loop or anything that looping, because it just will make your apps run slower. Okay, let's check it out and save, refresh, and yeah, we got the label here. My label, this label here is here, and we have text which is called 0. This is string, which is what I said before, string. Now let's make a function that is add counter, and that counter will put into my labels text. Make something like that. Count equals function how many for as a parameter how many, so how many. And there's the thing we need to know, that we can actually use this arrow instead, this arrow operator, or most people call it arrow function. And the difference is, with this function, with this arrow function, we can actually use this, but when we use the normal function here, we can't use this, because this will represent the color. Like this example, we call this outside of this event, then it won't referencing our state. So just use the arrow function instead. Cool. Now in this function, let's add something like counter, add how many, and add counter to my label text counter. Okay, we have the, let's see what's happened inside our stage. So load this, hit refresh. Now we have this add count in our stage. Okay, now let's make this button working. To do that, you just add something like an event listener. So let's say we add something on select, then add the stage. You may wondering why we are not using this, because when we're using this, it will represent the button instead of the stage. So let's try to see what's happening here. Yeah, it's referencing to our button, not stage. So let's we use this instead. So add the stage and add count -1. See, it's working. Cool. And now the next is plus button. We did the same thing, except we didn't add this minus because we want to add, not to track. So hit refresh and it's not working. Cool. Okay, the demonstration is done right now, and that's the thing we need to know, that FIWL is actually really new and it's like a baby. And I already add something that currently is not working, like this picture here. And yes, this is actually a development checklist before it's reached the alpha version. And this is it. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.